Okay, I think we'll get started. So good morning, everyone. Thanks to everyone who's joined us for our South Niagara Conversations series. Joining me, of course, is my co-host, Scott Lunn, General Manager of 105 The River and 101.1 More FM. It's starting to roll off the tongue a little easier, Scott. How are you doing this morning?
That sounds great. Doing very well, Dolores. Thanks. How are you making it this
I'm okay. I'm staying warm. The wind is howling out there, but that's okay.
morning? Ever, yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to Brian LaChapelle. He's always a little camera shy, but Brian and his team at B4 Networks always make us sound so good. Good morning, Brian.
Morning. Thank you, Dolores.
All right. So I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that Niagara's real estate market is one of the hottest in the province. We are in a crazy global pandemic, but our Niagara real estate market is better off today than it was a year ago. Our economy may be hurting because of pandemic related business closures and job losses, but the housing market is booming. What gives? Lots of questions this morning. Scott, who do we have joining us to provide hopefully some clarity?
Yeah, we'll get some clarity to it this morning for sure. This morning we have Stephen Canjar, who's the broker of record and president of Peak Performers Realty, and Neville Kidd, Senior Account Manager with Desjardins. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Stephen, I'm going to start with you. I don't know if the real estate market doesn't realize there's a pandemic happening. I don't know what's going on here, but this seems insane to me. So I know you've got all the answers. So over to you.
Yeah, it's very cut and dry. I honestly, this is something that a 180 from the last lockdown, where we did go and recess and be quiet and nothing much was happening, to an absolute explosion of what's going on. What's driving it? You're going to see a lot of factors. The interest rates are still relatively low. I believe some of the banks even dropped it. We might be in the 1.6 range of some of the mortgages. The Toronto condo market, it's a little bit more complicated as far as understanding what that's doing, but you're finding some underwriters are not interested in renewing mortgages in the condo market. What happens is when you start a condo building, you're 5-8 years away before you see it to fruition. So you can see extra inventory coming from quite some time into the future. So having said that, it's bottoming out up there. And what they're doing is their buyers and sellers are finding, I'm going to get rid of my condo and I'm going to come down and buy a single family home or something with property down in Niagara worth a fraction of the dollar still. The pandemic itself is driving this, with people working from home now. The first one was a little scary, where we didn't know what to expect or what to do. But now we're finding companies are settling people in, saying, don't expect to come back. We're not going to need you here. We're seeing Toronto, Oakville, Burlington, Hamilton, and even as far as Edmonton, I've seen where they're still working with their companies, but working from home. Don't need to commute or don't need to go into the office. And when they do, it's once a month, once every 6 weeks. So that's the new reality that we're seeing. That's driving it as well. And to figure out the rest, it's just pent up demand. There's more buyers out there than sellers. And part of the drive there as well is people that do sell are also going to have to buy. And they're being hesitant now, saying, wait a minute, what if I can't find something? Because of what's going on. Getting rid of mine is easy, but what to do next? So most of our sellers today are the ones that are going to an apartment or moving in with someone else. And they're the ones that are very comfortable with, I got a lottery ticket here, I'm cashing out.
Yeah. So, and the market has changed, right? Like I remember 20 years ago, really, it was the retirees who were coming to Niagara and settling. We used to call them the Escalade group, because they would pull up in front of our chamber office in their Escalades. They'd get out, wonderful, happy people because they were retired. And at that point, many of them were looking to relocate to, Hunters Point and other communities like that. But now we're seeing a different group
absolutely
moving.
Younger, we're seeing mixes. We're heavily involved in the new construction as well, and almost all of the homes that we're building are being finished with in-law type finishes downstairs, where we're seeing mom and dad move in and the kids are buying, and it's for affordability. And the pandemic has given us, if anything good, it's more family time together, understanding the old ways of doing things. And people are saying it's not a bad thing. Like the old cliche of like, I'm not moving in with my parents isn't so much there anymore. Like they're being okay with it. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Dolores. The boomers or whatever it was that were coming here with their Escalades, they're still coming, but we're getting a great mix of younger buyers too, families too. A lot of families coming down.
Neville, what are we seeing in terms of affordability? Like, how do first time home buyers even get into the market?
Well, we're finding that a challenge right now. And I echo the statements with Stephen in terms of the pricing. So we're finding houses that are traditionally selling at what we think the value is. For example, we had a house that selling for 600,000. Appraisal comes in at 630, and the house is selling for 800 plus. So the issue becomes is down payment funds available to the people that are purchasing it. And if you're selling a house, relocating and have additional cash, well, you don't have that issue, but a first time home buyer traditionally does. So we're finding them leaning on their parents to come in with stronger offers. We're finding that, they're really getting pushed to come in with no conditions, which is a very risky thing to do for a first time home buyer.
To say the least.
Yeah, so it's a challenge for them to get into the market right now. And I traditionally deal in the commercial sector, multi-residential properties, that kind of thing, rental properties. So what we're finding on what's pushing that other side of the market is because they can't get into the market, they're continuing with rents. Vacancy rates are at all-time lows in rental market, 2.3% in St. Catharines area. What this has done now with these low vacancy rates has driven up the rental values. So now we're seeing single-family homes renting for $1,200 or apartments where they may have long-term tenants in there for $600 a month. So what they're traditionally trying to do is to refinance and pull additional equity out of these properties and purchase and continue on and expand that market, because we don't see a change for these first-time home buyers getting in the market anytime soon. So it's driven the other side of the market in the investment sector.
Actually, I was just gonna ask you, how long do you think the market will stay like this?
Well, it's hard to say. Like I echo with Stephen again. Like we're seeing the drive coming from Toronto. Like people don't want to, because of this pandemic. They're seeing the benefits of living in the country, living out where they have land, enjoying outdoor space. The kids aren't cooped up in an apartment building. They're not all driven together like the cities. It's like cattle. Like you have. They want to see that change, and being able to work from home. And now with the internet going the way it is and getting so much better, it becomes very easy to do that. And companies are reducing their operational cost. So there's big caution right now in our office space sector because we don't know what's going to happen to the office space, whether companies need to downsize, reduce what they're having. People that have these buildings still have mortgages on them, right? So they need to carry these costs. Well, if the value decreases in the rental space in the office sector, well, that's going to decrease the value of the building inherently, and it's going to be a challenge for the people owning them. So we're not seeing a lot of activity in those sectors right now, but it's going to be a challenge going forward. That's for sure, no question.
So many moving pieces. I just want to welcome Barb Scarlett, who's broker with Century 21 Today Realty, who's just joined us. Welcome, Barb.
Hi, Dolores. I'm in my car outside an inspection.
No problem. Keep doing that good work. I think part of the attraction of Niagara is the fact that, we have 101 wineries in Niagara. So, if you like Chardonnay or Gamay or Pinot Noir, this is the place to be. We have, long summers, relatively speaking, for Canada, mild winters. We have great festivals. We have a lot of, assets here in Niagara. And I think, even before this boom, it was always an attractive place to live. And I think that's why, for the last probably more than 20 years, but at least 20 years, the retirees have really flocked to Niagara. So I think there's a lot of things that people look to Niagara and think, gosh, if I could live anywhere, that would be the place. And now circumstances have changed that they can live wherever they want because of, being able to work from home. I wonder, let's get back to the retirees just a bit. I'm finding that with some people that I know who are, lucky enough to be retired, that they're downsizing. They're actually looking for condos in Niagara, which has never been a popular thing down here, because they're spending half of the year in a warmer climate. Maybe not this year, but typically, they have homes or condos that they have in Florida or other warm places. And so they don't need that big home here in Niagara anymore. Do you see any of that? What is happening with the condo bills? I know that there are more going up. Can you guys talk to that a little bit?
Sure. There's lots of condos. It's probably one of the fastest growing sectors in Niagara. You're right. Years ago, there was no such thing. And particularly if you look at something like Welland, I don't know. I think we had a Dennistown Apartments, and we had a few buildings spotted here and there, but that was it. But we're seeing conversions now from buildings to condo buildings. We're also seeing a lot of the new builds being started as condos. You see them all through Fawn Hill and all through everywhere. So condos, yeah, they don't want the maintenance. They don't want the thing. They want to lock the door, leave, come back, and away they go, which was a very slow growing market up until probably a couple of years ago when we started to see a big boom on that. I think, Barb, I think you'll agree with that, and Neville, that we're seeing more and more condos come up at a rate nobody expected, because of the idea of a condo. People were unfamiliar with it down here anyways.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
seeing
for
a
sure.
lot I'm seeing a lot new builds going up. Hamilton, Stony Creek, Grimsby, Beansville, along the corridor and the highways. We've improved access to Toronto. It makes it almost more affordable for some of the first time or like you said, retirees downsizing. But we're also seeing on the flip side that some of these people that have got into the condo market recently are trying to get out, because now they're stuck in an apartment with no place to go. They realize that there's a lot of activity to do around the yard, and yard work is a lot better than being stuck inside. So it's a bit of a question mark still right now with this pandemic, but at the end of the day, it's still extremely hot market.
Yeah, down where I am in Fort Erie, we don't really have the high-rise condominiums. We've always had a need for it. We have a few apartment buildings, but what we have are a lot of townhouse type condominium corps forming, and I think that that's a really good market for what we have right now. We're seeing some growth in that. We've been developing it maybe for the last 10 years, but yeah, I think that probably the condo market sky rises like in the major cities. I see a lot of people moving down here out of the condos in Toronto that are buying in our marketplace.
Where's the hot spot? I mean, obviously it seems like the whole market is on fire, the whole region is on fire. But is there any pockets that are really winning the war in terms of like the place to be throughout the region?
Yeah, Niagara.
Across the board.
I was looking for a narrower path.
Well,
I don't know if there is.
No.
It's interesting because just before the holidays, we had our mayor series. So all of the mayors from South Niagara, gave us a bit of an update, and it was evident. And you just have to take a drive. Thorold, wow, explosion, right? With houses literally popping up overnight. Pelham, let's not even talk about it because I literally don't understand how I can drive down the road one day, take a day off, come back, 2 days later, and there's a neighborhood up. Like that's how it seems to me. Welland, booming, lots of houses going up in Niagara Falls. Fort Erie, not bad. It's just starting. And Port Colborne is, it's the farthest south, I guess, kind of. But it's just starting there. So I could see it's sweeping down. Is that right? Are you guys seeing the same thing?
Mhm. Port Colborne
Yeah,
is an active, very strong market. It's a smaller community, so there's limited numbers, so you don't hear the rush. But when something does come up in Port Colborne, it is gone. It's gone. So
There's no inventory in Port Colborne right now.
Yeah.
4 listings. Yeah.
And are they building new houses? Like, is there a building boom going on there, like there are in other communities here in Niagara?
in Port Colborne, to be frank, I don't think it's the same as other communities.
Yeah,
Why or not, I don't know.
not yet.
It's getting there. You're right. You're absolutely. I know we had some land in Port, and it was Port has a lot of rock, and for us to develop the acreage we had would be a lot of blasting into the thing. So sometimes, depending where you are in Port Colborne, it's not an easy build. Having said that, there's lots of areas to develop, and it will get there. Just right now, they're more of a slow and steady pace, the way they've always been.
So the prices that we're seeing are incredible. And I know that for those relocating from Toronto and other parts, it's probably still quite affordable. But for those of us who were born and raised down here, it's incredible. And so for young people, residents of Niagara who want to get into that market, who want to, have their first house, who need to get out of their parents' basement, is there a community in Niagara right now that would be, a better place to start, because the homes still are somewhat more affordable? Any advice on that?
I think Neville will probably handle this one the best. It's tough. Neville,
I
yes.
honestly, I don't know of any particular, even where I live, these areas are becoming noticed. We have a lot of benefits to our areas, like the beaches and whatnot. Like the beaches all along Lake Erie were jammed this year, and these people that have come here have saw the beauty in it, and now they're looking to actively buy. So these little hamlets along the lake that used to go unnoticed are the rates are going up like crazy. The activity, we're having 20, 30 offers on these houses, so it's busy literally everywhere. But what we're seeing, the most activity for a lot of the younger people, because they still need the income driven from Toronto, so they'll want to be along the corridor of the highway, and with the access to the GO trains coming down into Niagara, it's really opened that up. It's made it a lot easier. There's even, the Niagara Falls Airport for executives to connect to Toronto quickly. They can take a flight in the morning and be back by the afternoon. It's opened up the marketplace, but it's still a challenge for your first-time home buyer. We're seeing them join together with their parents and have a bigger down payment, some more cash coming in, a little less, risk in the offer, because the offers need to be with a lot less strings attached. Like back in when I was buying a house, I bought a house and there wasn't a ton of offers on it. And when I went and bought the next house, I could port the mortgage across to the other house and wait until my first one sold, and I had that luxury of time. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So they can't do these kind of moves without just pulling the trigger and hoping for the best, and it's kind of scary, that aspect.
So do you think that logistically, the pressure on our services, that, we can handle all of this, that our services can handle all of this additional growth? Because it's fast. It's
Well,
fast and furious.
I think that's a big challenge too, because I know in our areas like Waynefleet, Lowbanks, any of these rural style communities, they don't have the access, so they need to have a bigger acreage to put a house down. You need to run your own septic. You need about an acre to do that, and you're seeing smaller style developments with large housing. You see that in Dunnville in between. There's a couple new developments in hamlets like that popping up all over the place through smaller style builders. So, the areas that start getting developed, I think it's just on a bit of a smaller scale. The bigger builders are still, they're swamped, and building materials, I think, are a challenge for a lot of us, but they have their hands in the pot first, so to speak, to get the construction materials and whatnot. Yeah, we haven't find it really slowing down much at all.
It's interesting. I mean, in some of those rural communities, you can't even get internet. And thankfully Bell made a big announcement earlier this week about, working on that. But sometimes people come down, they buy these homes, and then they're like, what? I have no internet, or other things, like they can't just
Correct.
walk. In most cases, you can't just walk to your local bar for a drink, or even your local cafe for a coffee in the morning. You have to get in your car and drive, and for a lot of people moving from the GTA, that's a bit of a a switch as well.
6 cafes on the same street to pick from. Yeah, no.
Right.
But remember, what you
Definitely
give up
different lifestyle there.
you gain with 101 wineries,
Yeah, you do.
Right.
You're right.
right?
COVID's conditioned them for that rural living.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So I know this is a tough question, but how long can we sustain this? How long, these are conversations that we're having with friends and family and colleagues, and everybody is saying, well, something's got to give. Like, there's no way that this can continue. But what do you think? What are you seeing? What are your, crystal ball it for me?
I don't know if we can
I
do
don't-
that, but I know myself, it's a challenge even getting things done nowadays. Like, lawyers' offices have half staff working. They're all working from home. They're teaching the kids at the same time. Productivity's down. I can't get documents in. You're finding issues, with, closing dates, condition of financing for 30 days. Appraisal takes over 30 days. Like, it's a
Yeah.
challenge, with that, but with these prices the way they go, it's hard to say if it's going to level out or come back down a bit. I don't
I
see
think
it
it's going
dropping
to
out
happen.
at all. I
It's
mean,
going to
apartment
happen.
buildings. You got apartment buildings in Toronto going for 700,000. I don't see yes, they're increasing our values of our houses, but is it going to drop through the floor? I doubt it. Right. I don't know. I think it should level out, and then we'll see back to our traditional increases again. But I don't think the bottom's gonna fall out myself.
No bottom falling out. I agree with that. Income is going to level off the pricing because it's gonna hit a point, and I think it's getting there, where what a household income is obviously has a limit to what it can afford and carry. And when you start dropping those numbers off, saying, okay, just because 40 people can afford something at 600 doesn't mean 40 people can afford something at 650. That number is going to drop. So that itself will probably be a natural leveler, I guess, so to speak. What we're seeing today is 37 offers in, one winner, 36 losers. They just shuffle off to the next one that comes on the market. For the 2021, I think we're going to end up with a strong market still. Whether it means, do we have to raise interest rates a little bit to calm things down, to level off the pricing? I don't know. But the trouble is Niagara is somewhat of a unique market. So you can't go ahead and change interest rates across the board and affect communities that aren't doing what we're doing. Like, we're the anomaly, I believe, right now. So for us to say interest rate drops or increases are the answer, no, I don't think so. We have a lot of pent up demand, and I know what happened last time they raised the lockdown out and opened us up back up. We went insane. It got even worse. So we'll be strong, but I think naturally household income will slowly start to level off the pricing because there's going to get to a point where people can't afford it.
Isn't that the fear with an increase though? If there is a slight adjustment in an increase in rate, that some people, I mean, we've seen in the past where people are, they're in at 6, let's say, but
Well, our
You
system
know,
has our stress tests and so forth in place. So the banking industry has some checks and balances in there for that. And we're not talking, go to 6 or 7%. And again, Neville said it probably, we can't do it. If we're the anomaly, you can't blanket everybody across. So the chances of the rates going up are probably slim and none. But I do know that I think household income will slowly start to level off. What people can afford, hit their limits, and prices will have to adjust accordingly. So I think we will have a leveling off.
The big
So,
thing to remember too about rates is we're talking residential right now, and we're talking Niagara being like
Yep.
Steve was saying, a very small hamlet. There's a lot of sectors that are not doing very good.
Mhm.
We have not seen. We're starting to see some liquidation happening. I've seen office spaces coming across the door with $40,000-$50,000 under value, just to get rid of it. We know people are getting pinched in these scenarios. Self-employed people, husband and wife scenarios, both self-employed, no income coming through the door, liquidating properties, liquidating equity, putting themselves in a better position to see if they can sustain long-term. So the rates are driven across the whole market, and is following off bond rates, which are really given by the government, and they need to stimulate the economy by trying to drop these rates. So you're not going to see big increases. They will be minor increases, obviously, if things are picking up, but you're not going to see any changes anytime soon in the rate market.
so Stephen, just before we started the podcast, we were having a little conversation, and you were saying that you're just starting to see the beginning of the fallout of the deferred mortgage payments, with people now having to make some tough decisions. What can you share on that?
It's not a lot, but I'm starting to hear rumblings from people asking, can you come tell me what my house is worth? This might be a good time to cash out. I'm going to move in with my parents. I'm going to move in with my boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm going to move in with a friend. And the reason being is some of the that don't have their jobs anymore, can't find work again, aren't going back to work anytime soon, have used up all their deferral payments from the banks. I have a client, she's in the same boat. She's like, I'm out of deferral payments. The bank has basically told me that's it. You need to start making payments. And she just doesn't have the resources because she's not working. And the programs from the government just aren't enough for her. So she's going to be cashing out. She's going to have a good chunk of money in her bank account to wait and maybe buy something down the road. But for the time being, she has to get out of the mortgage. It's not affordable anymore. And she'd rather walk away with grace than to lose it, which she feels she's being told by the banks, like, time to start doing something. And yeah, so we are starting to see the families that, exactly what Neville was talking about, losing income. Self-employed guys are having a hard time. Jobs not opening. Retail, like anyone that I have several friends that are servers in the retail, in the restaurant business, and they went from a very decent lifestyle, from their gratuities and stuff like that, to nothing because they're not open. So there's a lot of people that are hurting out there.
Barb, are you seeing the same?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. I mean, your self-employed people are definitely struggling. It's tougher on our locals because, you've got these young people trying to get into the marketplace, and they're having to go move in with family. And it's still very, very busy here in Fort Erie with the out of town money pouring in. So we're not seeing any settling on prices for our locals. Our average price range, I can't believe, is even here in Fort Erie, 525,000. I don't know how sustainable that is long term, but yeah, we're seeing both sides of it. The market's still driving, but you can see where there's going to be pressure on our local people for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, cracks are coming in the armor.
Yeah, and we've said it on, I think, every podcast that we've had so far, Scott, that we don't think we've seen the fallout of this pandemic yet. It's for the businesses that got grants and loans. When those loans become payable, we're going to see some just not be in a position to repay the loans. And it's the same with the deferred mortgages. I mean, it's great that the government stepped up and provided that support in the beginning. But honestly, who could have predicted, we're almost a year in. Well, we are a year in. No, I don't want to say no end in sight. There is an end in sight, but it's just hard to plan and hard to predict. And how long can people hold on? So I wonder, would you say that, investing in a home at this point, especially your first home, is it still a good investment right now, or should people wait?
Dolores, over the years, I don't know about Neville and Stephen, but, I've watched people wait over the years thinking that the bottom was going to fall out. And there are people that made that decision 3 years ago, can't get in.
Yeah.
So I would say
Agreed.
get into the market regardless, because even if it drops, it will rise again. I mean, if you look over history, stock market, anything, it has a progression upwards. So I've watched people where they sold to cash out, and now their equity's gone. They can't get back in. I wouldn't say don't get in the market.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that.
it's
Do what you
interesting.
can to get in, whether it be buy with mom and dad, buy with a friend, do
Buy
something.
an investment property, get in for sure. You guys may have touched on this before when I was a little late to the call, but one other thing that I'm seeing happen is a lot of our self-employed people, people that are out of work right now, are already renters. And we're seeing the landlords liquidate those properties because now is the time to do it. So I think we're going to have a challenge too with these people trying to find affordable living from a rental perspective, because if you're buying an investment property at these price points, your rents have to be high. So that's going to be a big challenge down here for our renters, our rental market as well.
Yeah,
Well,
I think you're
I'm
right.
seeing more investors coming down our area looking because you're buying a $700,000 condo and you can only rent it for $2,500.
Yeah.
Cannot make payment on the rental market. Just they're not bringing enough through the door for it to run the mortgage. So they're looking at opportunities down this way. So your single family duplexes are really hard to get into. Most of my investors into the rental market are buying larger, looking for units plus, because there's still not a ton of people that are actively searching those kind of properties. So it opens it up for the investor, and the investor, like Barb was saying, is liquidating your smaller places, getting huge equity out of it, and then going on to the larger one.
Yeah, we had a shortage prior to the pandemic with, affordable rental units across Niagara. I remember having lots of conversations about that piece. So that's definitely not getting any better. It's interesting. My daughter, almost 3 years ago, moved back to Niagara. She had, moved out to Waterloo for a few years after university, moved home for a little bit, but was really eager to buy a home. And I remember when her and her boyfriend started looking, my husband and I were shocked at the prices of not very nice homes in not very nice areas. Anyways, they ended up buying a new build in an older neighborhood. They got in a nice home, a small home, but a beautiful starter home. And now, houses in their neighborhood are going for almost double. Like I just can't even believe it. And I remember when my daughter bought the house 3 years ago, she said, "Mom, how did you sleep at night with, a mortgage like that?" And I laughed and said, "Oh, honey, I never had a mortgage like that."
Yeah.
So it's, you're absolutely right. Like, for those people who thought, I'm going to wait. Well, good luck, because now it's, that many more times more
I had
expensive.
a lot of that last summer. I'm waiting for the market to dump 30-40%. Then I'm buying. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I've been at this 28 years And I don't see that happening. Oh no, you wait. You guys are all saying the same thing. I spoke to that guy around Christmas, and I'm dying after this motivational podcast here to call him this afternoon and ask him how he's making out. So,
So what about for people who are thinking of getting into the real estate as a career? They want to become a real estate, agent. Is now the right time? Any thoughts on that?
who wants to start there?
You, Stephen.
All right. As broker of record, I own the company, and I get this probably about 5-6 times a week. Any time to get into a career is a good idea. If you're right for the career or not is a different story. You're probably looking at around $10,000 now to get in by the time you're done your courses and registered and your payments and so forth. If you're not good at rejection, I'm not sure that this is good for you at this point in time, because of 37 offers in, that's 36 losers, one winner. Yeah, there's, and it takes a lot. I know agents, even the ones in my office that write 5, 6, 7 offers a week that go nowhere because of the market, but they got to keep going and going and going. And to say, I know my favorite comment when I hear is like, oh, you guys must be raking it in now. It goes back to X amount of offers in, one winner, everybody else is a loser. It's not as easy as you think in today's market. Like, it's not like everything you write an offer on, you get, and you move on to the next, and you write another one. You're like, oh, I got that one and got that one and got that one. Nope. No, you're some of my guys are 1 in 20 that they're hitting. So is it a good career to get into? Absolutely. To me, it's not a career. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle. And I think my other two panelists here that are involved in the same industry will agree. It's very rewarding. Now, sure, by the time you get through your courses and finished, things might be a little bit more normal, but it's a very difficult time for even the seasoned veteran realtors to make things happen. And I don't know, am I wrong, Barbara? You've been
No, for sure. Yeah.
wrong?
I mean, it's funny. I've been doing it since 2004, and I think of every market, has its challenges. You just spoke to this market, and I don't know if you guys can recall 2008, 2009, carrying 25, 30 listings at any given time, having to make your calls to the seller every Friday, that was a tough market to uphold. So to your point, I think, when people are getting into the business, they have to understand the job, and, it's very confrontational. There's high levels of rejection. A lot of people will call me as well and ask, and they'll say, well, I kind of just want to do it part-time, and, good luck to you.
Yeah.
It's like the survival rate is not very.
No such thing as a part-time heart attack. Either you're having one or you're not.
Yeah, but I mean, the career, it's an awesome career. I absolutely love real estate, but I had a conversation this morning with somebody, and they said to me, what does your day look like? When do you start, when do you finish? I said, I was up at 2 a.m. sending off a doc because I forgot about it.
How many hours a week do you work? I don't know. I stop at around 80.
I don't know. When I sleep, right now. But it's an awesome career.
Yeah.
If you like to be busy, it's a great lifestyle.
We've got one last question, I think, and we'll ask it because it was written in, and that's the first time in so far in the podcast we've had this happen. So Jeff Neal has asked a question to the three of you. What do you think of the concept of an outsider tax for house sales? 15% regional tax on all buyers from outside Niagara would drive down the price the Toronto buyers are willing to offer and make it more affordable for Niagara kids to get a house, plus raise money for the region for infrastructure. Neville, let's start with you.
Personally, I think that it's a smart idea. I worked in China for quite some time, and things are no different there. Many countries do the same thing to reduce foreign investment money, and we're seeing it all the time through on the commercial aspect, on the commercial front, as well as the residential front. I see large developments being scooped up, or property, land is at a premium. Mortgages in China went to 50 to 100 years, intergenerational mortgages. Why? Prices don't go down. So how do you combat with income versus mortgage? You extend the term. And not too far ago, we had 30-year terms for people to get into the market, which they rolled it back to 25. But I mean, personally speaking, if things continue the way it is, we could see that come back into the market. I think by putting the taxes in place on foreign investment would certainly equal the playing field a little bit, and hopefully stabilize house prices. But I think that's going to be a hard one to call. I don't think the government is going to jump all over that one, but I don't know, we'll see. It's a good question though.
Yeah. Anyone else thoughts on that? And then we'll wrap things up.
I think Neville said it pretty good. How or what we're going to implement is probably going to be the biggest question. It's a fine line. What happens when we do level off here? Is it going to start to hurt us? It did work with the threat of it a few years ago with the foreign investment on units and things like that. It did calm things down. And yeah, I do think we have to do something with the foreign investment. Locals is a bit harder, or Canadians type thing moving around. It's a fine line, but would we be open to supporting something like that? Yes. But there'd be a lot of details needed to be given out to make sure that this doesn't actually hurt us more than it helps us. There's your vague. It's a tough question.
Yeah.
It's a very tough question.
Yeah, I
And
wouldn't
then you get into
strongly,
ownership
I would,
and-
I would be nervous. I would be nervous that it would slow us too much. I mean, we've been prospering as well. So I don't know what the answer is, but I would be worried that, you know, once we level off, that maybe we wouldn't have the activity as well. What I don't want to see happen is for us having to pay a gain on our principal residence. I know that for sure.
Well, somebody's kicking that around, so.
I've heard it, and that just, you know, that would just be a catastrophe for, you know, a lot of our retirees having that's their major asset. I mean,
Spends his whole life paying off his wartime house for retirement.
Mortgage, and now he's got a
like it's an RSP. It's sickening, to be honest with you.
The estate.
Oh. Fingers crossed that never happens. Right. It's the last vehicle left for these old timers. And even the young kids today. I've always sold houses based on buy a house. It's a forced savings account. Every month you make a payment, you're putting money away for your future. Whether the value is up, down, whatever, every month you're forcing yourself to save money. This is going to be your retirement. This is going to be your future. Don't give up. And then now when they're going to start to play games with your principal residence, now investment properties, you know what, go ahead. You know, I get it, whatever, but principal residence. And when I keep hearing things like they're kicking around taxing it as if it was an RSP contribution, wow, like just hands off. I get very upset about that thought.
Absolutely. Stephen Canjar, broker of record and president of Peak Performance Realty. Barb Scarlett, broker with Century 21 Today Realty, and Neville Kidd, senior account manager with Desjardins. Thank you all for a very spirited conversation. And we'll see where this whole thing, where it goes.
Everybody have a great day. Stay warm.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Dolores, what's on tap
Thanks,
next
guys.
week?
All right. Well, that was a great conversation. And Scott, next week we'll be talking about how people are mentally and emotionally getting through this pandemic. We've never been this isolated. It's impossible to make plans because things are changing so quickly. And we're all feeling the effects of that. We'll be joined by longtime mental health advocates, Wayne and Helga Campbell, and Jeannie Hostetter, Community and Business Services Manager for the Family Counseling Center with Family and Children's Services. It's an important conversation that we really can't afford not to have. So to all our listeners, send us the topics that you're talking about because we want to talk about them too. Thanks again for tuning in and have yourselves a wonderful day.